Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. Congresswoman, it's great to have you on again. We've got new developments. Okay, the media has been calling out the president's State of the Union address as abnormal. The angriest, most divisive, most politicized speech ever. News now crossing. It looks like President Biden plagiarized and copied large chunks of his own 2022, 2023 State of the Union addresses. We watched it, all those addresses. There were like at least 20 lines and more that he kept repeating from prior speeches. You were at the State of the Union last night. What do you think about this? Isn't this a sign is an age issue?
Well, look, I definitely think it is showing not just a cognitive issue, but there's a laziness there. I mean, he continues to gaslight the American people and tell them that the State of the Union is strong. Well, 2/3 of Americans believe that the country is headed in the wrong direction. They are struggling right now to keep a roof over their head with these high mortgage rates that have more than doubled since he's been in office. They have also been struggling with the high food prices, high electricity costs, energy costs because of his anti-energy policies. And they see what's happening at the southern border, and they know that it is a result of his executive orders and 60+ policy changes that he made to the Trump administration's policies that have allowed for 10 million individuals to enter. So I think he's been very dishonest with the American people last night. For him to say it was strong, it showed a real disconnect with what the American people are feeling and seeing and thinking.
Yeah, it's abnormal. It was an abnormal speech. There's more news crossing, breaking news. The mother of Laken Riley, the Georgia nursing student, reportedly murdered by an illegal immigrant just moments ago, slammed President Biden for mispronouncing her daughter's name, saying that's, quote, pathetic. You're going to say her name, at least get it right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very sad, and it was preventable, and Americans should be clear in that this would have not happened if it were not for the Biden administration giving parole to her murderer, and for Bill de Blasio's 2014 law in New York City that actually prohibited NYPD from cooperating with ICE. That's why he was on the street and was able to go to Georgia to kill Miss Riley. It is a tragedy. It was preventable. And we're seeing federal, state, and city policies of the Democrats come to a head here. And so when I had an opportunity to speak to the president when he was walking down the aisle, I said to him, Mr. President, you need to secure the border. Americans are dying. And he said he needed authority. I said, you have the authority. You know you have the authority. Use this authority to dismantle the border. Now you need to use that same authority to put it back together. And that is the truth, Liz. If people go look at themselves at Title 8, right, immigration nationality law, sections 1185, 1182 and 1225. Read it. See what the authorities of the president are. He has the authority right now to reinstate remain in Mexico, to end catch and release, to make us changes to asylum and parole, and he could actually shut down the border completely if he wanted to.
So he's totally, it's hard, it's a tough word to say. People are saying he's been lying. So let me back up. The media calling it the state of his campaign speech, not about the state of America. Many are saying it feels like America needs a detox from it. It was abnormally not statesmanlike. You know, he was yelling throughout it. He committed an ugly breach of decorum and norms, bullying and threatening the Supreme Court. Critics say he talked about, you know, things like snack chips before he ever got to the border. You know, there are pro-Palestinian protesters outside, far-left Democrats protesting against him inside. Again, he's been in there for 50 years in D.C. It seems like this is what you get when somebody's been in D.C. for so long, they think that it's okay to keep lying to the American people, misleading them, and flat out making things up on the fly ad hoc. Even CNN slamming this speech. Let's watch what happened.
Does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? I sure don't. And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about.
He seemed like Walt Kowalski. You talked about this earlier. He seemed like Walt Kowalski in Gran Torino screaming at kids, get off my lawn.
Never heard one so political. Never heard one that is such a campaign.
He was obsessed with his political rival more than he was obsessed with the condition of the American people. This guy lectures us all on unity, the soul of the nation, and he gives the most partisan convention speech in place of a State of the Union that I've ever heard. It's the literal opposite of unity. It's so partisan. He's obsessed with taunting Republicans. It's not statesmanlike.
Yeah, so how do you get back to normal? So Biden, a lot of the divisiveness in this country is because of President Biden. He is dividing the nation. He's been dividing the nation for years. He didn't mention the 13 U.S. soldiers killed in the botched Afghanistan exit. We had a Gold Star dad whose son was killed there, arrested, put in cuffs. He didn't mention the 3 soldiers killed in the Middle East by Iran-backed militants. He downplayed rising grocery prices, gas prices, inflation, crime. He spent more of his time attacking other people. He's the one dividing America.
Well, look, he had no choice, right? What was he going to do? Because it's his fault. These are the policies that he put in place. He's the one that destroyed America's energy domestic production. He's the one whose horrible foreign policy has displayed such weakness, has enriched Iran to the point where now Hamas is so well funded, they went after and attacked horrifically Israel. Russia would not have invaded Ukraine. The Afghanistan withdrawal, as you mentioned, killed 13 American soldiers. And remember, that was the decision to close the Bagram air base. So all the prisoners were released prior to the evacuation of our citizens. And that was an ISIS-K fighter released from that jail prematurely that then went on and killed these 13 soldiers. And when I tell you this is the other part that's crazy about it, because we had somebody testify to it. The sniper saw the ISIS-K fighter and tried to take him out, and his higher-ups, right, his command, told him not to. That's why we have 13 American soldiers who are now killed. That is the disaster of this administration. Not to mention high interest rates. The Federal Reserve keep increasing the interest rates. Americans can't purchase a home. They can't stay in their home. All while they're being told they got to pay to give free shelter, free health care, free education to people who are in the country illegally.
You know, Congressman, it just feels like America doesn't even know. I mean, I know a lot of, conservatives and independent voters, the swing voters, they see that they deserve better. It's almost like he thinks that yelling makes it right. Yeah. That voters think, oh, just because he's yelling, he must be saying something that's correct.
Yeah, I compared it to in The Simpsons as that old man that yells at the cloud. That's what I compared it to this morning. But you know what? There's like people out there, like these Hollywood elitists, who are actually saying that this was a fantastic speech. Joy Behar and Henry Winkler and Barbara Streisand. I mean, they live in a complete fantasy land. Again, they're also disconnected from the American people. And I truly believe that the president does have a cognitive issue here. It's sad. And I do believe that these are the people that are around him that have forced him to make awful decisions, and he's incompetent, and he shouldn't be the president because of that. There are bad people within that administration that are doing the wrong thing for this country.
Congressman Malliotakis.